Hello, I'm Annette Young and welcome to the 51%, a show about women reshaping our world, coming up. Amid extremely dark times in the Middle East, with fears of Israel's war with Hamas spreading beyond the region, we talk to those courageous women peacemakers from both sides who are calling for an immediate end to the bloodshed. And tens of thousands of women in Iceland go on strike to demand equal pay while protesting against gender-based violence. This in a country which is seen by many as a feminist paradise. But first, and as the world continues to watch with horror as events unfold in the Middle East, thousands have been killed as the region dangerously teeters on the edge of a wider conflict which could result in direct US and Iranian involvement. A savage, brutal attack by Hamas on Israeli kibbutzim and communities near the Gaza border on October 7th resulted in at least 1,300 Israelis being killed and more than 200 hostages being taken into Gaza, including women, children and elderly people. In response, the Israeli military launched a massive aerial bombardment of Gaza, killing thousands of Palestinians, forcing hundreds of thousands to flee their homes, while many in the international community are decrying what they describe as collective punishment. And now, more than ever, the notion of peace in the region seems so very far away. With this in mind, where does this leave those women peace activists on both sides? Joining me now from East Jerusalem is Nivine Sandouka, a Palestinian peace activist and Chief of Staff for Alliance for Middle East Peace. And from near Tel Aviv, Dr Yael Braudo-Bahat, a co-director of Women Wage Peace, the largest grassroots peace movement in Israel. I want to first of all say thank you to both of you for coming on to the program. Nivine, let me start with you. How do you keep your eye on the horizon and call for peace when so many on both sides are on a dangerous spiral of hatred and revenge?
It's difficult. It's difficult because we're talking about the people that I work with. We're talking about the people that also represent my identity and also the values that I present as well. So it's extremely difficult, but we need to be strong. We have seen evidence of this working before, of peace happening before, when Oslo happened, but also because I'm a mother and I want a better future for my son. I don't want my son or his generation to keep falling into the same cycle of violence every single day. And that's basically what keeps us focused on, the North Star. We want to end the occupation and we want to bring peace for our children.
Yael, the same question to you. I mean, how hard is it to call for peace when you have two friends and also members of your very own organisation, Women Wage Peace? I'm talking about, of course, Vivian Silva and Ditsa Hyman, who've been taken hostage into Gaza by Hamas. I mean, it must make it very tough for you to talk to your fellow Israelis about the need for peace.
Yes, absolutely. It's also difficult to be a peace activist these days. We're all devastated. We're all grieving, frightened, angry, you name it. And it's very, very challenging. But and of course, it's even more challenging to talk about peace beyond the small group of us or the activists. But we are more determined than ever because what happened only reassures our cause and it makes it even more urgent to reach a political solution. Because if we don't reach a political solution, if we try to keep managing the conflict instead of resolving the conflict, the next round will be much more violent, much more bloody, and we cannot let this happen. So for us, our cause became even more urgent and crucial.
Given the current climate, however, are your voices on both sides being heard? Let me ask you first, Nivine.
So, to tell you the truth, right now, it's a very difficult time for both Palestinians and Israelis. I think even the peacemakers right now are in a state of shock and trauma of what has happened since October 7th. And what is still going on, we're still there. It's not like we're post-traumatic. So, but the good thing is we understand that if we don't come together and if our voice is not being heard, it means that we're going to keep falling into the same cycle of violence. And right now, we feel that more than ever, there is an opportunity for us to be calling for ending the occupation and actually having a peaceful negotiated agreement. We are looking at different countries, not only the United States, but also multiple and other stakeholders who are actually, hopefully, can be leading on this negotiation process. So now, more than ever, I feel that our voice is needed and there is an opportunity to be heard.
Yael, can I ask you the question, again, keeping in mind, obviously, that you've got several hundred Israeli hostages still being held by Hamas?
So we're, again, very worried for the hostage, all the hostages, and very worried for the two that we know personally. And also we know that there are hundreds of thousands of civilians on both sides who are terrified now for their lives. And there are mothers on both sides, and mothers. And that Nivine said before, we only want our children to grow and raise their children in future generations in a region that is peaceful and secure. And this is what we're doing daily. Women Wage Peace has a sister movement, a Palestinian sister movement, operating in the West Bank and Gaza, the Women of the Sun. We have been working together for 2 years now. Our contact, our joint work hasn't ceased even after October 7th. And this keeps me very, very hopeful, and knowing that that it's possible. Only 3 days before the Black Saturday, we had a very big event in Jerusalem together. Hundreds of 1,500 Israeli and Palestinian women and men from both sides came to Jerusalem and then to the Dead Sea, marching together, calling for peace together. We felt really hopeful, and we were so devastated 3 days later. But we don't stop working together even though this happened.
Finally, Nivine and Yael, where to from here? We seem to be standing on a precipice. Instead of seeing so much doom, how do you convince people around you that this is the time to apply the handbrake and seek a peace agreement?
I think it's really important for us to start communicating more that the fact that more than 50 years of under occupation, more than 15 years of siege, is only going to bring us more war and more violence on both sides. And actually, we're seeing civilians on both sides paying the highest price. And people are starting to realize that this cannot continue. How do we bring them more to this recognition? I think that we need to seriously consider how we're going to end the occupation and how is our voice going to be heard at the different governments as well. There is an opportunity right now, but we need to go back to the basic humanization of one another. Unfortunately, throughout the media, we have seen a lot of dehumanization of one another, a lot of hatred and hate speech going on. And we need to find media outlets where this voice, the third voice of not being pro-Palestinian and pro-Israeli, just being pro-peace and pro-humanity, is not actually being heard. And we need it to be heard in different media channels and outlets as well.
Yael, your final thoughts?
So I first of all, I completely agree with Nivine. The last part of her answer is exactly what I believe, what I think. It's not either pro-Palestinian or pro-Israeli, it's pro-peace. And we need to be together in this. I take inspiration and hope from other conflicts in the history in other regions of the world, like Northern Ireland, like Liberia, where bloody deeds and horrific actions were taken, and women from both sides managed to unite and persistently demand peace negotiations, and they succeeded. So I am hopeful with this. We need the media. We need the international support. We need the support of Israeli and Palestinian leaders and the opinion makers. Join us. Join the mothers who call for peace and begin negotiations, because we cannot live on like this. We all deserve peace in this region.
Yeah, oh, Nivine, I'm terribly sorry, but we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you for hosting us.
Now, earlier this week, tens of thousands of women in Iceland went on strike to demand equal pay and protest against gender-based violence. Back in 1975, a similar historic strike was held when almost all of the country's women refused to do paid work or take care of their families. This time, they were joined, however, by the Icelandic Prime Minister, who went on strike as well. Jenny Shin has more.
It's one of the biggest walkouts in Iceland's history, a 24-hour strike over gender equality. Schools, shops and libraries closed, public transport delayed, and hospitals understaffed. A mission to highlight the importance of women's contributions in society and to raise awareness of gender-based violence.
We've been fighting for it for decades, and this day is very special for us, for women in Iceland, because we all skipped work 48 years ago, and we are doing it again today because the gap is still there and we're fighting against it.
The small volcanic country held its first women's strike in 1975, a historic event that saw almost all women in the nation refuse to work for the day in protest of unequal treatment. In the seventh such women's strike in Iceland, even the most powerful woman in the land is taking part.
We refuse to live in a society without salary equality. The situation has gotten better, but we know we can do even better. We're also demanding an end to gender-based violence, which is a fundamental condition for equality.
Despite being consistently ranked among the most equal countries in the world, organizers say the country needs to make more progress and lead by example. Icelandic women have a gender pay gap of over 20% in some professions, and more than 40% of women suffer assault or violence at some point in their lifetimes.
And you can find our special reporters programme on Iceland, and if indeed it is a feminist paradise, on France24.com. And that's all for this edition. We'd love to hear your suggestions for the 51%, so do get in touch with us via Facebook, Instagram or X, formerly known as Twitter, of course. And you can catch our previous episodes on our website. So until our next show, bye for now.